Good day and welcome back to Elementary 72 Gaming. This has been the first time that I haven't had a dropped video in quite a while. And the reason is my last video didn't corrupt. I actually managed to get it completely rendered and uploaded without much of a problem. I think it's mainly because I'm using another piece of software to record at this time, and my computer is actually handling it way better than I expected. Normally the software would crash my computer completely. So anyway, let's get into Tower of God Full Spoilers, episode 62, moving upwards. Okay, so we're in the middle of the submerged fish hunt. Remember, we're about 20 episodes away from the end, or just less than 20 episodes away from the end. So there's a lot that I'm going to be going through, and you're going to have to be able to cope with it. So first of all, let's talk about where we left off in the last one. I did say that I'm trying to figure out exactly what he's talking about. And ecology and the way that it's described when people try to see ecology is very difficult. City slickers have one way of seeing ecology, right? We see it as this magical thing that needs to be preserved the way that it needs to be preserved. And, that's what we will think of it from a city slicker point of view. And then you get people who live in urban areas on the outer fringe, and they just see nature as this pest because they'll get bugs, they'll get pests from nature coming into their houses all the time. Think about the outback. They have spider problems, snake problems, all of that. That is something to do with nature. They don't care about these types of things, and generally they'll favor just eradicating it. And then you get people who live in both situations who are the exact opposite. They don't think that it needs to be perfect. They believe that there's middle ground in between and things like that there. And I'm actually very, very confused on where SIU fits into this type of mindset. Now, here's another spoiler. This picture here is actually represented in season 2 before they get to the workshop battle, when Bam talks to Huryang on the balcony. Before they depart, he actually talks about what was being held inside the wine glass. Deep down under the wine glass, what was being held here was the thorn's holder fragment. Now, the thorn holder fragment isn't made from the thorn. It's just been adapted so that it matches the frequency of the thorn. I'm not sure if that makes enough sense. So it was this artificial holder, and they looked at it and they tried to work out a way for it to actually work perfectly with a wielder. So, example, if Bam had it, he can power it up and he can use the thorn at full power. That was the whole idea at the end of the day. Okay. So here we get the whole ecology system. So what I explained in the last one, I didn't realize it was explained here. So here is an example of a perfect balance, right? They keep the thieves from stealing more fish. Even if the dog eats some of the dolphins, it doesn't affect the chase that much, because the chase proceeds, the circle will get narrower, meaning less dolphins are needed for it. So it's kind of one of these unique things where you're not going to get something like this here in every mention, in every story, and it's really something super unique. It's really important as well when you think about it. So here's how you should think about it. In terms of its actual uniqueness, it isn't to that level where you can say, oh, without this here, Bam wasn't going to get up the tower. No, it's not that level of superficial. Wait, how should I say? It's not going to affect so much on what's coming up in the tower, but it does affect us a little bit. It shows us the ability of others to manipulate an entire situation beyond what we can see, and that is something which is going to be spoiled here. Okay, so yeah, let's let's try and get this here to a reasonable statement so that I don't jumble up everything that I'm about to say. Okay. With regards to this whole chase, here are a few things you're going to need to know, right? Regardless of whether you all for the chase and you want to know how come it's so bad. What Han Sang-yu does in this chase is kind of a minor interference, right? And it's also a major interference. We suspect that he created the bull, so everything that the bull does is actually a direct action of Han Sang-yu. Because Han Sang-yu is an enema, so remember he can control creatures that are born from Shinsu, so it's quite possible that Han Sang-yu is manipulating the bull to do his bidding. And then we know that he allows Ren to take it over because Ren is also an enema because he's from the Lopobia family. That is Lopobia's speciality. They are scout enemas, right? So just so that you know where each family lies. And scouts are really difficult to fight in the front part of the battle. They're good at defending themselves against wave controllers, spear bearers, light bearers, and fishermen. That is their one role. They're good at defending themselves. They can buy time till the fisherman gets in and helps them with the fight. That is their entire role. They're not very good at finishing off battles, so they're going to have high agility. They're going to have mediocre strength. They're not going to be super beasts. Some of them are going to have extreme combat capabilities, but not enough power or not enough willpower to kill. That is an example for Huts. Huts won't kill unless it is absolutely necessary. Okay. Okay, so here we go. So here's something to actually think about, and this is where the ecology situation starts to become unbalanced. You see, we want to have an influence in places, and I know this is what's really working on everybody's nerves when it comes to these videos. It actually works my nerves too, but I have to explain it if I want to explain the spoiler. So we get this hint that you can alter something to your own benefit, and you can make it however you want in that alteration, right? And I know this isn't very methodical. It isn't giving you enough information, but trust me when I say there isn't anything more that I could say about this here to actually make it get cleared up. And we see that he's explaining, if you want to hold a piece of land in preservation just for one purpose, like, you know, to let a dying species survive. Example, if you wanted to save the rhinos in Africa, in order to do it, you have to interfere with nature. You have to intervene in a way that's going to interfere with a day in their life, and you're going to hope that the entire system goes back to normal the next day. I know it sounds very poetic in this way, but it's not. It's just the exact same thing from before. Right, and this is where things get way too difficult to explain. I'm actually getting so lost with the ecology that I'm really just ignoring 90% of it and just saying whatever I can think of for that situation. Literally, it's one of the hardest things to keep a flow of. Example, terraformation. When you think about it for planets, when you plan terraformation, you have to plan so many things all at once. You have to raise the microbial biology, you have to increase the oxygen levels, you have to decrease carbon levels, you have to decrease nitrogen carbon elements to less than 1%, and you have all of these things which you are balancing on an active scale, and eventually you're going to get your 75% of neutral gas, which in the for the purpose of Earth is nitrogen. For the purpose of another planet, it may be sulfur, it might be any other gas, right? There is another substance, I was just not getting it right, so I just broke off from saying it there. Okay, so first the scouts will watch the movements of the thieves, and the thieves start to move with the worms. We cue the spear bearers, and the spear bearers will stay out of sight and aim for the worms only. The biggest problem in this test is the bull. Now we already know the bull has already showed up. So yeah, there we go. The wild cards. Why are they calling the two princesses wild cards? Now, in reality, Anak is just a Jahad. She is not a princess of Jahad. She is a bit of a sore subject for their whole situation. If you want to understand the references of what Anak is an illegitimate child. Big problem for everybody who's involved, but not a big problem for anybody on the outside. You can just look at it however you want to, and you can decide the outcome based on your own opinions. That's how it is for Anak. Anak is this weird, odd placed individual, and she's going to cause hell for the story every time she shows up. There isn't a way around what Anak is going to cause in terms of trouble. So yeah, that's how I view Anak Jahad. So yeah, let's continue. I'm actually just a little bit lost on this for a few seconds. I'm thinking of what to say about these two, because there is something that I need to say about it. I'm just forgetting it. What is it? Oh yeah. Because they have Jahad blood, they are quite tough and durable individuals. Now, obviously, that doesn't mean that just because you're strong, you can beat everybody. We know that's the reality of this tower, and we get to see it little by little with the whole story with Bam. Remember, Bam is ridiculous. In terms of Bam's actual power, that first floor's ball is stronger than any test they've gone through over here. In terms of reality, Bam should be on the 20th floor of the tower, but he's on the second. Remember, he's a 20th floor level pass as a second floor regular. Him having the Black March is like nothing. Remember, the Black March is just a piece of a piece of lead in the wrong hands. If Rachel had had the Black March and she tried to stab the ball, it wouldn't have even pierced the ball like the Black March did. If she had ignited the Black March, it most probably would have just cracked the surface a little bit. Even though that's a complete weapon ignition, that is about the level of difference between Rachel and Bam. Bam is that much more powerful when it comes to it. If Ender Rossi or Anak were there, possibility is when they went ignition with the 13-month weapon, they would have cracked the ball severely, and maybe another 2 or 3 hits would have broken it. But just because Bam is what he is, when he ignited it, it shattered to pieces. It exploded. So he's that much more powerful, and they just get to break the ball in two. He literally broke that ball into pieces. That's how crazy he is. If Yuri went in there and she did it, she would have been able to do something along the same, if not better, like total dust. Right? That's just the two different individuals we're talking about. But from all these regulars, Anak and Ender Rossi are close to Bam's power. They most probably the two who are the closest in level to reaching Bam's power. Oh, sorry about that. Oh, and here's the thing, right? Another thing to remember between these two is the old hag is Anak. The young lady is Ender Rossi. Anak is a very, very old individual. Ender Rossi is young compared to her. In terms of reality, Ender Rossi met Anak before she... Okay, so how do I explain this here? Ender Rossi met Anak, and we know that... Okay, because it's not this Anak that we're talking about. The other Anak was there before she became a princess. So we know that she was alive during that time. So most probably during her hideaway period, she met Ender Rossi, and she was really nice to her. That's how come she wants to follow so closely to Anak, the real Anak, not Anak Lizard Jahad, right? I'm gonna call her Anak Lizard Jahad because that makes it easier. Because it's the mother and daughter with the exact same name. It's such a heavy thing to do because you're going to keep getting confused between the two individuals. So yeah, so that's something for you to note with this whole story because people will forget it and they kind of messed up this whole dynamic. It should have been that Ender Rossi was older than Anak, but Anak is actually older than Ender Rossi because she was born before then. But we just get the idea that in between this time, when Anak was born, whatever her real name is, the other Anak met Ender Rossi, and she was a much younger child. I think they have about a 200-year difference between their age. She's about four to 300 years old, and she's about 7 to 800 years old. So yeah, quite a big difference in age. Okay, so yeah, they go with their crazy bet. Remember, they're the wild cards. They're gonna do whatever they want to do, however they want to do it. So that's what a wild card is. So there's the bull is about to eat Shibisu. Now, why is she after the Black March? It was probably to give it back to Bam, right? It's kind of crazy, but that was probably the real reason behind all of this. Remember, she's already fallen in love with Bam. It's already happened before this test. There's something in Bam that just drives her nuts. She just wants to be with him. Pirako. Parakyo. And there we go. That episode is over, and I've taken way too long to explain anything in this year. So yeah, let's start moving, and let's talk about this year when we finally get some info. So I'm just going to blab along while we're going with this year. There's a lot of things that are happening here in the story, and with regards to what's going on in this test, this is an overarching theme because a lot of this is actually quite boring in terms of spoilers. They're not really spoiling anything. There's nothing that I can spoil based off this content. I can discuss about how this relates to a future test, but it doesn't even relate to many future tests. This test is purely this once. I haven't seen anything else. Let me think about it. A test similar to this nature. Let's think about that there carefully. Floor 20 test, no. The Shinwei hunt, no. That was a setup. That was just ridiculous. They tried to make Yurik Mizuno fight regulars. They're lucky he didn't blow up the whole floor for that. And now here's something that's really being said here, right? You have to remember that the bull is actually pulling its punches against Endorsi to try and goat her to chase it. I like this here. This here shows Anak is actually jealous. That means that she actually likes Shibisu quite a bit, but obviously it's Anak. She's such a tsundere. And here's something really shocking. Remember, I said Balm is really powerful. She said that this is weaker than Balm. The reality is that Balm kills this right now. Remember, when the bull goes all out, she can't match it. She can't even fight it or resist it. But Balm can blow it up. That's literally what he did. He shot it full of Shinsu and made it explode. This is the real inventory, right? She has something that could extend out of her foot, and the way that she used it is like this here. Now, here's something that you should note. Remember, I said there's a strong possibility she's a blocker or from a blocker's family, so she has blocker type items. This item is meant mainly for a defensive strike. Now, blockers are an odd position. I don't exactly know 100% how they function, but from my understanding, a blocker works the spear bearer. They give the spear bearer the chance to stand still, and they take all the damage for them, so they play the role of a tank. And here's Yuga. Now, here is a major spoiler. Yuga is a part of Red. We know he's here to kill Anak, and he's here to also take back the 13-month series. But there's a second reason why he's interfering. He wants to help the Lopobia family to get Lilial and Chilial up in ranks with the passing when they finally become princesses. So he was hoping that by doing this here, he'll open 2 slots or 2 chances for a princess from the Lopobia family to get a weapon. He knew Lilial and Chilial were extremely strong. As D-class regulars, they are the top of the line. Remember that in season 2, they only make it to E-class regular. So they're the lowest of the low. Then they make it up to the 30th floor, and when they pass that day, they become D-class regulars. That's the Hell Train. When they make it past the end of the Hell Train, they entering into C-class territory. From C-class territory, it's B-class territory, which is season 3. And that is where the story is. Lillian and Cyril were the best for D class. They most probably became the best in C class quite quickly, even though I think they rushed their climb. They most probably were right at the edge of the floor ascension when they did it, and then they went all the way to B class, where Balm ended up meeting up with them. So they're at the exact same level. So yeah, you have to understand that this is something crazy. Alright, so yeah, we get that. As I said, these are small things. Spoilers in this section are going to be so tiny that they don't even really impact the story enough to actually say it's a spoiler. I know it's kind of boring to do it, but yeah, here we go. In terms of the way Nare uses her Shinwei, it actually makes it seem like she's really, really weak, right? It can only scout, it's a very limited item, she can just hold one Shinwei in her bowl. That's what you call the vessel for the Shinsu, and that's how you develop your bond with the Enema to a Shinwei. Right, for scouts they are fantastic because you have another creature to assist you in battle. Say for example you are an Enema with 4 or 5 creatures. Some of your creatures were defensive, some of your creatures were offensive. Say for example you managed to get a earth striped pig, it's a weak creature, you can make it your Shinwei. It would be fantastic, and she had this here. So she has an attack beast for the quick intercept. She has this for the long range scout, and she'd need one more for mobility, something to help her run around with. Maybe a wolf or something on that level, something really weak, not an apex predator, and not something on the very high levels. And that would make a big difference. And we see that they call it a Shinsu fish breather. That's actually called an enema. Remember, she is here for money. That's her entire objective. She wants to get rich. This is actually a major spoiler. She gives him everything. This here refers to 2 individuals in the story. This reveals Yuriha and it reveals Enderossi. The 2 of them were born to love. They fell in love with an individual at first sight. His name is the 25th Balm, or Jovial Grace. I think Jovial Grace is a much better name for him than the 25th Balm. And the reason is because after reading the story and figuring out everything for myself, I feel that Jovial Grace is a much better name for him. And it's also possible for enemas to tame wild creatures. So even if the creature is already in nature, there's a chance they can tame it. They don't have to breed it from the start. And here's another trick for the rest of the story. A lot of people hide their power, especially a certain black-haired boy, and it always ends up having this effect on people, right? Surprise them at a later date because you are so much more powerful than you look. It's something that some people use in reality, but here's the reality behind it. The strategy of hiding your strength and using it at your ideal moment for advantage is one of the worst things you can do in actual combat. The reason for that is quite simple. Number 1, you ruin your chance of putting enough damage on an enemy, right? And number 2, you interfere with your chances of success, because if you take too much of damage in your fight before you start going serious, you can collapse from fatigue or from pain just because you underestimated how much your body could take. Remember, everybody is a limited amount of fatigue, and that is the reality behind it. All right, so we're gonna end it here. Obviously, 62 to 65. So much better than 62 to 64. Not much better, just a fair amount of go through. So I'm gonna stop here. There's not much to discuss with regards to this section. The next section most probably has a bigger part to play because we're gonna get Kuradan introduced, and we're gonna be able to explain the differences between different Shinsu users in the form of wave controllers. You get attacking wave controllers, you get defending, you get stasis elements, so boosters, you get healers, you get fighters, you get true fishermen in their category as well. That's a universal role who can actually fight in the front line. And I'm going to explain all of that in the next one. So catch you all then and have a good day.